My name is Jade Reed, 28 years old. My sister Peyton was having her engagement photos taken inside a historic brownstone in Boston. Right before the camera started rolling, my mother shoved a torn gray dress into my chest so hard I stumbled backward. "Put this on and stay invisible," she hissed. "You're just background, Jade. After 17 years of leeching off this family, don't you dare try to look like you belong here today." My sister Peyton burst out laughing while adjusting her $4,200 silk gown. "Exactly. 3 steps behind like the family servant you are. Smile and shut up." I stood there in the ripped dress, holding cheap flowers, positioned behind the happy couple. Until the photographer stopped shooting cold. Attorney Victoria Lang lowered her camera, looked my entire family dead in the eyes, and said with ice in her voice, "They really believed no one would ever find out what they did to you for 17 years. That single moment was the beginning of everything they thought they had buried forever, finally rising up to destroy them. Before I continue, if you find this story worth hearing, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with what I'm sharing and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I'd love to know." The dress smelled like basement mildew. $6 from Goodwill, my mother told me that morning while pulling it from a donation bag. The shoulder seam was torn completely through, exposing the gray fabric lining underneath. When I held it up, I could see daylight through the rip. "Perfect," my mother said. "You'll blend right into the background where you belong." I was standing in my studio apartment in Allston, the kind of place where the refrigerator hums loud enough to wake you at 3 in the morning, and the neighbors' arguments bleed through walls so thin you learn their custody schedule by accident. I make $18 an hour as an office temp. No benefits, no security. I've been doing this for 6 years. Every morning, I woke up at 5:45 to catch the first bus to whatever downtown office needed temp help that week. Some weeks, I was at a law firm filing discovery documents. Other weeks, I was at an insurance company entering claims data until my eyes burned. The pay was exactly $18 an hour, no overtime, no benefits, and no promise that the assignment would last beyond Friday. I'd come home exhausted, heat up a frozen meal, and open my laptop to help Peyton with whatever she needed. Slide decks for her job presentations, emails to her boss, or even proofreading her quarterly reports. She never said thank you. She'd just send a thumbs up emoji and go out with her friends. 17 years of this pattern had trained me to disappear. I stopped buying new clothes. I stopped dreaming about going back to school. I told myself I was lucky to even have a roof over my head. That was the version of Jade my family had carefully built. One who never asked for more. My sister Peyton makes $125,000 a year as a marketing director. She bought a condo in the South End in 2021 with a down payment so large I remember asking her how she saved that much. She'd laughed. "Smart investments, Jade. You should try it sometime instead of complaining about temp work." The engagement photos were scheduled for 2 in the afternoon on March 15th. Saturday. Bright, cold spring light. My mother called me the night before with instructions. "Wear something simple. Actually, I'll bring you something. You always dress wrong for these things." I didn't ask what she meant by "these things." There had been graduations, promotions, birthday dinners, holiday cards. I was background in all of them, the sister who didn't quite fit. The one cropped out later or positioned at angles that made her easy to forget. I put on the torn dress in my bathroom, the fabric rough against my skin. In the mirror, I looked like exactly what my mother wanted. Poor, forgettable, grateful to even be included. I took the T to Copley, then walked 15 minutes to Commonwealth Avenue. The brownstone was in the heart of the city, all exposed brick and soaring ceilings, the kind of place that rents for $3,500 for an afternoon. I'd looked it up online the night before. 428 Commonwealth Avenue. built in 1885, recently renovated, available for private events. Peyton was already inside when I arrived, draped in ivory silk that caught the light streaming through tall windows. Her fiancé Damien stood beside her in a custom suit, the kind with a tailor's label stitched inside the jacket. He's a corporate real estate attorney, 34 years old, works at Cross and Hamilton, one of those firms with offices on the 40th floor and views that make you forget what street-level Boston looks like. "You're late," my mother said when I walked in. She was adjusting Peyton's hem, making sure every fold laid perfectly. I checked my phone. 1:58, 2 minutes early. "Sorry," I said anyway. I'd learned that years ago. Apologize first. Question nothing. Survive. My father stood near the window, hands in his pockets, already looking past me toward something more interesting outside. Mitchell Reed, insurance adjuster, 59 years old. He'd stopped making eye contact with me sometime around my 16th birthday, right around the time he told me college was too expensive and I should be realistic about my future. The photographer was setting up near the fireplace. Older woman, maybe late 50s, with sharp gray eyes and hands that moved with careful precision. She introduced herself as Victoria Lang, specialty in documentary-style family portraits. "I want to capture the real dynamics," she said. "Not staged perfection, real moments." Peyton loved that. She smiled and posed, tilting her head at angles she'd practiced for Instagram. Damien wrapped his arm around her waist with the ease of someone who'd never questioned his place in a room. "Jade, you'll stand here," my mother said, positioning me 3 steps behind the couple. "Hold these." She shoved a bouquet of supermarket flowers into my hands, the kind that cost $12 and die within 3 days. I stood where I was told. I held the flowers. I smiled when the photographer looked my way. Victoria circled us slowly, camera raised, adjusting angles and light. She stopped once to stare at my hands. I have a scar on my left palm, a thin white line that runs from my thumb to my wrist. I got it when I was 12. My grandfather performed the surgery himself, fixing torn ligaments after I'd fallen during a family dinner. He was an orthopedic surgeon before he retired. Judge Lawrence Reed, family court judge for 32 years before that. He died in January 2020, 6 years ago. I was 22. Victoria lowered her camera completely. The room went silent. Even Peyton stopped posing. "Jade Reed," Victoria said. "Not a question, a statement." I nodded. She set the camera down on a nearby table and reached into a leather briefcase I hadn't noticed before. When she pulled out a folder, I saw the court seal stamped across the front. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Suffolk County Superior Court. "I've been looking for you for 6 years," Victoria said. My mother's face changed. That controlled mask she wore in public cracked just slightly at the edges. "I don't understand," Peyton said. "You're supposed to be taking photos." "I'm not a photographer," Victoria said. "I'm an attorney, estate executor for Judge Lawrence Reed." She opened the folder. "Your grandfather left very specific instructions. I was supposed to deliver this to you, Jade, when you were standing in a room with Lorraine Mitchell and Peyton Reed." She looked at my family. He called it a condition for truth. My father moved toward the door. Victoria stepped in front of him. "You'll want to stay," she said, "because what happens next determines whether you're arrested today or in 72 hours. The folder was thick. Inside, I could see pages and pages of handwritten text, photographs, documents with signatures I recognized. "Jade," Victoria said, turning to me, "do you own property in Boston?" I shook my head. "No, I rent a studio in Allston." "You're wrong," Victoria said. "You own this building, 428 Commonwealth Avenue. Has been in your name since January 8th, 2020, the day your grandfather died." Peyton went completely still. My mother made a sound low in her throat. something between a gasp and a warning. Victoria pulled out a document. I recognized the format from legal shows I'd watched late at night when I couldn't sleep. Last Will and Testament, dated March 15th, 2019. 7 years ago exactly. Everything was left to you, Victoria said. The brownstone, a trust fund of $1.2 million. Your grandfather's entire estate. He named you sole beneficiary and me as executor with specific instructions. Wait until someone tries to steal it, then activate. She handed me the will. I read my name over and over. Jade Reed. Sole heir. Full ownership. Unconditional. That's impossible, my mother said. Her voice had that tight control she used when she was about to rewrite reality. Lawrence left his estate to a scholarship fund. We were told. You were told nothing, Victoria interrupted. You told yourself a lie, and you've been spending Jade's inheritance for 6 years. She pulled out another document. This one looked like a property deed. My name was printed clearly at the top. Jade Reed, owner. Below that was another signature. Also my name. But I'd never signed anything like this. February 10th, 2020, Victoria said. Someone forged Jade's signature on a quitclaim deed, transferring this property to Peyton Reed. That same someone used a temporary conservatorship, filed without Jade's knowledge, to access her trust fund and drain $1.2 million over 3 months. The room tilted. I sat down on the floor before I realized I was falling. Victoria kept going. Her voice was steady, clinical, the way a surgeon describes an incision. Your parents filed for emergency conservatorship 5 days after Lawrence died, claimed you were emotionally unstable, needed protection. The court granted temporary conservatorship for 6 months. During that time, they had legal authority over your assets. They used it to forge your signature, transfer your property, and drain your trust fund. The conservatorship ended in August 2020. You never received any of the court documents because your parents intercepted your mail. I remembered the day I turned 23. I had gone to the mailbox hoping for anything from Grandpa's estate. Instead, I found only junk mail. When I asked my mother about it, she snapped, "Why would Lawrence leave you anything? You've never accomplished anything on your own." For 6 years, I believed I was worthless in his eyes. The realization that they had stolen not just money, but also my grandfather's final message to me, made my stomach twist violently. Every birthday, every holiday, every quiet moment I spent wondering why I was so easy to forget. They had engineered that pain on purpose. Peyton was backing toward the door now. Damien was staring at her with an expression I couldn't quite read. Confusion, calculation, distance. The brownstone was sold in June 2023, Victoria continued. $2.8 million. Peyton listed herself as the owner. Damien's law firm processed the sale. She looked at him. You signed off on a fraudulent property transfer. Your firm earned $84,000 in commission from stolen assets. Damien's face drained of color. Victoria wasn't finished. But that's only part of it, she said. She pulled out a leather-bound journal, the cover worn soft from years of handling. I recognized it immediately. My grandfather's handwriting on the first page. Lawrence Reed. Personal documentation. 2015 to 2019. Your grandfather kept detailed records, Victoria said. He documented 17 years of what he called systematic family exploitation. He started noticing patterns when Jade was 11 years old. She opened the journal to a page marked with a red ribbon. I could see my grandfather's handwriting, precise and careful. The date at the top, November 12th, 2015. Victoria read aloud. She visited the family for dinner, found Jade, age 11, doing Peyton's 8th grade homework at the kitchen table while Peyton watched television upstairs. When I asked Lorraine about it, she said it was good for Jade to help her sister, said it taught responsibility. I watched Jade work for 2 hours. She never complained. Peyton never came downstairs. This is not help. This is exploitation. The words settled into the room like smoke. Victoria turned pages. More entries. More dates. December 2015. March 2016. September 2016. Each one documenting moments I'd forgotten or tried not to remember. Jade doing homework past midnight. Jade writing Peyton's college essays. Jade taking phone calls from Peyton's teachers, pretending to be her sister to explain late assignments. He took photographs, Victoria said. She pulled out a stack of images. Me at 14, slumped over a textbook at 11 p.m., dark circles under my eyes. Me at 16, typing on a laptop with Peyton's student ID visible in the corner of the frame. Me at 17, holding printed pages of what looked like a research paper, exhaustion written across my entire face. 156 journal entries, Victoria said, 64 photographs, and 23 audio recordings. She pulled out a small digital recorder. Your grandfather wore a recording device in his watch during family visits, Victoria said. He wanted evidence. Legal evidence. The kind that would hold up in court when the time came. She pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room. The recording was from Christmas 2016. I was 18. I remembered that dinner. The table set with good china, the house decorated with lights. Peyton home from college for winter break. My mother's voice, clear and sharp. Jade owes us. She lives here for free. Room and board costs money. If she won't help Peyton with schoolwork, she can find her own place. My father's voice. She's lucky we're not charging her rent. A pause. Then my grandfather's voice, careful and measured. She's your daughter, Lorraine, not your tenant. My mother again. She's old enough to contribute to this family instead of being dead weight. The recording cut off. I remembered the day I turned 23. I had gone to the mailbox hoping for anything from Grandpa's estate. Instead, I found only junk mail. When I asked my mother about it, she snapped, "Why would Lawrence leave you anything? You've never accomplished anything on your own." For 6 years, I believed I was worthless in his eyes. The realization that they had stolen not just money, but also my grandfather's final message to me, made my stomach twist violently. Every birthday, every holiday, every quiet moment I spent wondering why I was so easy to forget. They had engineered that pain on purpose. Victoria played another one. This one from September 2017. I was 19. Peyton was in her junior year at Boston University. Peyton's voice, irritated and sharp. I need that marketing paper by Friday or I'll fail the class. Stop being selfish, Jade. I have other things to do. You're better at writing anyway. My own voice, quiet and defeated. I have work tomorrow, double shift. Peyton. I don't care. You owe me. I'm the one with the actual future here. Victoria stopped the recording. The silence afterward felt heavier than the words themselves. There are 21 more recordings like that, she said, all documenting years of coerced labor, academic fraud, and psychological manipulation. She turned to Peyton. Jade wrote every single one of your college papers, 89 assignments over 4 years. Your 3.4 GPA is entirely her work. She coached you through your SAT, spent 6 months tutoring you until your score went from 1,050 to 1,390. She wrote your graduate school applications, your internship essays, your job cover letters. Every professional achievement you've ever celebrated was built on her invisible labor. Peyton opened her mouth. No sound came out. Victoria pulled out a USB drive. I have all the original files, she said. Word documents with metadata intact, creation dates, author names, revision histories. Every file shows Jade Reed as the original creator. Every single one. She handed the drive to Damien. You're a lawyer, Victoria said. Check it yourself. Damien took the drive like it might burn him. He pulled out his phone, the kind with enough processing power to open files right there. I watched his face change as he scrolled through document after document. File properties. Author, J. Reed, laptop 2016. Created, October 2014. Modified, October 2014. No other editors. These are all Peyton's college papers, he said quietly. But they were written by... He looked at me. By you. I nodded. Because it was true. All of it. Peyton was shaking her head, backing away like she could physically escape the evidence. This is insane, she said. Jade helped me. That's what family does. She wanted to help. Did she? Victoria asked. She pulled out another recording. This one from June 2015. My 18th birthday. My mother's voice. We can only afford one daughter's education, Jade. Peyton is older. It makes sense for her to go to college first. You can work for a few years, save money. Maybe go later if you really want to. My own voice, younger and thinner. But I got accepted. 8 schools. Boston College offered me a scholarship. My father. Peyton needs us more. You've always been fine on your own. It's better this way. The recording cut out. Jade had a 4.0 GPA, Victoria said, 1580 on her SAT. Scholarship offers totaling $120,000 over 4 years. Your grandfather offered to pay for her entire education. Your parents refused. They told him Jade needed to learn independence. She looked at my parents. What they really meant was Jade needed to remain available to do Peyton's work. My father finally spoke. You don't understand the full context. I understand fraud, Victoria said. I understand forgery. I understand theft. And I understand that Judge Lawrence Reed saw this happening and spent 4 years building a case that would survive his death. She pulled out the final document. It looked official, stamped with court seals and signatures I didn't recognize. Your grandfather filed a comprehensive evidence package with the Suffolk County District Attorney in March 2019, Victoria said. He gave me specific instructions. If Jade's inheritance was ever stolen or her identity used fraudulently, I was to immediately deliver all evidence to the DA and file criminal complaints. She looked at her watch. I filed those complaints at 2:30 this afternoon. That was 45 minutes ago. The DA has 72 hours to review the evidence and issue warrants. Based on what I've provided, will, journal, recordings, metadata, forged deed, conservatorship abuse, bank records showing the money trail, I'd estimate you have about 3 days of freedom left. My mother tried one more time. This is a misunderstanding. We were protecting Jade. The conservatorship was for her own good. You stole her property while claiming to protect her, Victoria said. That's not protection. That's exploitation with legal paperwork. She turned back to me. Jade, this brownstone is legally yours. It was never sold. The sale in 2023 was fraudulent because the seller, Peyton, never actually owned the property. The buyer has grounds to sue Peyton for $2.8 million. Damien's law firm will likely face sanctions for failing to verify ownership, and your parents will face multiple felony charges including fraud, forgery, identity theft, and conservatorship abuse. The engagement party was supposed to start in 2 hours. Same location, same brownstone, 150 guests invited. Peyton's colleagues, college friends, extended family. Everyone she wanted to impress. I'd cancel if I were you, Victoria said. She packed up her briefcase with the same careful precision she'd used to unpack it. Or don't. Either way, everyone's going to know by Monday. She handed me a business card. Victoria Lang, attorney at law, Lang and Associates, Boston. Your grandfather wanted you to have all of this, she said quietly. The property, the money, your future. He wanted you to know that someone saw what they were doing to you. Someone documented it. Someone believed you. She picked up her camera bag. I'll be in touch about next steps. For now, you might want to stay here. It's your building. You have every right. She left through the front door, closing it softly behind her. I stood motionless for almost a minute, the torn gray dress still clinging to my skin. This grand brownstone with its history and elegance had always felt like it belonged to someone else. Now, it was mine. Memories flooded back. Grandpa letting me spin in his office chair when I was 10, teaching me how to play chess by the fireplace, telling me quietly one Christmas that I was the brightest mind in this family. I never understood why he said it only when no one else was listening. Now I did. The four of us stood in the empty brownstone. Me in my torn dress. Them in their expensive clothes. The power dynamic of my entire life shifting so fast I could hear it crack. My mother spoke first, her voice desperate and sharp. "Jade, you have to understand." "Get out," I said. It was the first time I'd ever interrupted her. "This is a misunderstanding," my father tried. "If we just sit down and talk." "Get out of my building," I said. Peyton was crying now. Real tears or strategic ones, I couldn't tell anymore. Maybe she couldn't either. "Jade, I'm your sister. We can fix this. We can—" "You stole my property," I said. "You sold it for $2.8 million. You spent 6 years living off money our grandfather left for me. You built your entire career on my work. And you want me to fix this?" Damien was already at the door. He wasn't looking at Peyton anymore. He was looking at the exit. "I need to call my firm," he said. "I need to—" He stopped. "I processed that sale. My signature is on the documents. If the ownership was fraudulent—" He left without finishing the sentence. Peyton followed him, stumbling in her expensive shoes, calling his name. He didn't turn around. My parents stood near the window, smaller somehow than they'd been an hour ago. "You'll regret this," my mother said quietly. "We're still your family." "You were never my family," I said. "You were my employers. And you didn't even pay me." They left together, my mother's hand on my father's arm, moving quickly toward the door like maybe if they moved fast enough, they could outrun what was coming. I sat down on the floor of the brownstone. My brownstone. The March light was fading through the tall windows. I could hear traffic on Commonwealth Avenue, the city moving around me like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I pulled out my phone and called my landlord, gave 30 days notice on the studio in Alston. Then I called my temp agency and quit. No 2 weeks, no explanation. Just done. I spent that night in the brownstone, sleeping on the floor in the main room where the photo shoot had happened. I didn't have furniture yet. Didn't have much of anything except a torn gray dress and the certain knowledge that my entire life up until that moment had been built on lies. The engagement party was scheduled for 4 p.m. Sunday. I woke up at noon, still on the floor, my back aching from the hardwood. I thought about leaving, going somewhere else, letting them have their party in peace. But this was my building, and I was done being invisible. I showered in the bathroom upstairs, using hand soap because I didn't have anything else yet. I put on jeans and a sweater I'd brought in my bag. Nothing fancy, nothing torn, just myself. The first guests started arriving at 3:45. I watched from the upstairs window as they parked their cars and walked toward the entrance. Colleagues from Peyton's work, friends from college, people I'd seen in photos online, all of them dressed for celebration. I waited until the room was full, waited until I could hear champagne being opened, conversation building, someone laughing at a joke I couldn't hear. Then I walked downstairs. The room went quiet when they saw me, not immediately. It started near the door and rippled outward like something dropped in still water. People stopped talking, turned, stared. I recognized some of them. Peyton's boss, her college roommate, cousins I'd seen at holidays, all of them looking at me like I was a stranger who'd wandered into the wrong party. My mother tried to intercept me. "Jade, what are you doing here?" "I live here," I said, loud enough for people nearby to hear. "This is my building." The ripple spread faster, whispers, phones coming out, a few people Googling the address, checking public records, doing exactly what I knew they would. Peyton appeared from somewhere near the back, Damien nowhere in sight. Her face was blotchy, makeup covering exhaustion that leaked through anyway. "You need to leave," she said, not loud, not making a scene yet, still trying to control the narrative. "I need to leave my own building?" I asked. "The building our grandfather left me in his will? The building you sold illegally for $2.8 million?" The whispers got louder. "That's not—" Peyton started. "Victoria Lang is an attorney," I said to the room, "estate executor for Judge Lawrence Reed. She delivered his will yesterday. Everything was left to me, property, trust fund, all of it. My parents filed for conservatorship without my knowledge, forged my signature on a quitclaim deed, and spent 6 years stealing my inheritance." Someone near the food table dropped a plate. The sound cut through the room like glass breaking. "That's not true," my mother said. But her voice didn't have the same control it usually did. She sounded desperate, caught. "The DA has all the evidence," I said. "Journal entries, recordings, forged documents, bank statements. Warrants will be issued within 72 hours. I looked at Peyton. "And your degree from Boston University? The one your career is built on?" Jade wrote every paper, 89 assignments, all documented with metadata. The university is investigating. Peyton's face went white. Her boss, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and expensive jewelry, stepped forward. "Is this true?" she asked. Not angry, just clarifying, getting facts. Peyton couldn't speak. "It's true," I said. "Victoria Lang has all the files, original documents with creation dates and author information. Every paper shows my name as the writer." The boss pulled out her phone, started typing. I imagined the email she was writing. Subject line: urgent. Academic fraud investigation. Effective immediately. People started leaving. Not everyone, but enough. The ones who understood what they were hearing. The ones who knew that staying meant being associated with fraud when this hit the news cycle in a few days. Peyton tried to stop them, calling out names, saying it was all a misunderstanding, promising to explain everything. No one stopped. My parents left through the back door. I watched them go, my mother's shoulders rigid with something between rage and fear. My father looking at the floor like maybe if he didn't make eye contact, none of this would stick to him. By 5:30, the brownstone was empty except for catering staff quietly packing up untouched food and unopened champagne. I paid them myself. Used the credit card I'd been keeping for emergencies. Tipped extra because none of this was their fault. By 6, I was alone again. I sat in the main room where everything had started yesterday. The light was different now, softer and colder. Late winter evening settling into the city outside. My phone buzzed. Text from Victoria Lang. "DA called. Evidence review expedited. Warrants likely Tuesday morning. I'll keep you updated. Also, attached is the key to your grandfather's study upstairs, 3rd floor. He left instructions to keep it locked until you owned the building. It's yours now." I found the study on the 3rd floor, behind a door I'd walked past twice without noticing. The key fit perfectly. Inside, the room was exactly as I imagined my grandfather would have kept it. Books lining every wall, a desk near the window, papers organized in careful stacks, and on the desk, a leather journal I recognized immediately. The last one. The one he'd been writing in during his final year. I opened it to the last entry. December 28th, 2019. 11 days before he died. His handwriting was shakier here, illness or age making the letters less precise than earlier entries, but the words were clear. If you're reading this, Jade, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't stop what they were doing to you while I was alive. I tried. I offered to pay for your college. I offered to let you live with me. Your parents refused, said you needed to learn responsibility. What they really meant was, they needed you available to do Peyton's work. I've spent 4 years documenting everything, building a case that will survive my death. Victoria has instructions to deliver this evidence when the time is right, when you're surrounded by the people who hurt you, when you can finally see the truth with witnesses present. They stole 17 years of your life, made you believe you were less than, made you believe you owed them something, made you believe their version of reality where you were the problem. You were never the problem. You were the solution they exploited. I'm leaving you everything because you deserve everything. Not because you earned it through suffering, because you should have had it from the beginning. Because you are exactly who I hoped you'd be despite everything they did to try and break you. Take it all back, Jade. Every single year. Every single piece of your identity they tried to erase. Own this building, go to college, build the life they stole. And remember, they controlled the narrative for 17 years. But truth doesn't disappear. It just waits for witnesses. I love you. I always saw you. Grandfather. I sat at his desk for a long time. The city lights came on outside the window. Commonwealth Avenue glowed. Traffic moved. People walked home from dinner, from work, from wherever Sunday evening took them. I called Boston College the next morning, explained who I was, asked if my acceptance from 2015 was still on file. The admissions officer put me on hold for 10 minutes. When she came back, her voice was different. Careful. We heard about your situation, she said. Judge Reed's case. It's been in the news this morning. I pulled up a browser. She was right. Local news sites had picked up the story. Former judge's estate theft uncovered. Family arrested in inheritance fraud. Prominent Boston family under investigation. We'd like to offer you admission, she said, for this coming fall. Full scholarship. And Jade? We're very sorry for what happened to you. Tuesday morning, my parents were arrested. I watched the news coverage from my grandfather's study. Lorraine and Mitchell Reed, charged with 8 counts of fraud, 6 counts of forgery, 4 counts of identity theft, and 3 counts of conservatorship abuse. Bail set at $100,000 each. Peyton wasn't arrested. Not yet. But Boston University launched a formal investigation. I got a call from the dean of students. They'd reviewed the metadata Victoria provided. Every paper verified as fraud. My name on every single file. We'll need 4 weeks to complete the investigation, he said, but based on preliminary evidence, we expect to revoke Ms. Reed's degree. I hung up and sat very still. 4 weeks later, the university made it official. Peyton's degree was revoked, her transcript marked with permanent notation, academic integrity violation, comprehensive fraud. The school sent formal notification to her employer. She was fired the same day. Damien's law firm suspended him pending a Bar Association ethics review, processing fraudulent property transfers, failure to verify ownership, possible knowing participation in fraud. His career wasn't over, but it was damaged in ways that would follow him for years. The lawsuit came next. Harrington Properties, the company that bought my brownstone for $2.8 million, sued Peyton for fraud and breach of contract. They wanted their money back. All of it. Plus damages. Peyton didn't have $2.8 million. She'd split most of it with my parents. Bought furniture, took vacations, lived like someone whose wealth was earned instead of stolen. My attorney, I hired one using money from a settlement with my parents, said Peyton would likely declare bankruptcy, lose everything. spend the next decade trying to rebuild from nothing, the same place she'd forced me to stay for 17 years. I didn't feel satisfaction exactly, just a kind of cold clarity. They'd created their own destruction. All Victoria and I did was document it. I enrolled at Boston College for the fall semester. Pre-law. I wanted to understand the systems that had almost destroyed me. Wanted to help other people who'd been exploited in ways that looked like family, felt like duty, but were actually just crime dressed up as obligation. I was 28, 8 years older than most of my classmates would be. But my grandfather had been right. I wasn't starting from zero. I was starting from truth. The brownstone became home. I furnished it slowly, carefully. Nothing expensive, nothing that screamed wealth. Just comfortable. Just mine. Sometimes I walked through the rooms and remembered standing there in a torn dress, holding cheap flowers, positioned 3 steps behind people who thought they'd won. The dress was still in my closet. I kept it folded in tissue paper, not as a reminder of humiliation, as evidence of transformation, proof that the narrative can change when truth finally has witnesses. 6 months after everything fell apart, I got a letter from Peyton. Handwritten. No return address. She must have dropped it through my mail slot because I never saw her. The letter was 3 pages long. Apologies and explanations. She didn't know the property transfer was illegal. She thought Mom and Dad were just helping her invest. She never meant to hurt me. She was sorry. Could we talk? I read it twice, then put it in a file with everything else. Evidence, documentation. The story told correctly this time. I didn't respond. Some people deserve second chances. Some people deserve the consequences they created. The trial was set for October. My parents pleading not guilty, their attorney arguing that conservatorships were complicated, that they'd acted in good faith, that family dynamics were being misunderstood by outsiders. Victoria was confident. She'd built the case with my grandfather. 7 years of evidence, recordings, metadata, bank records showing exactly where every dollar of my inheritance had gone. They'll take a plea deal, she said. No jury is going to side with parents who stole their daughter's future. She was right. 3 weeks before trial, my parents took a deal. Guilty plea to reduced charges, 3 years in federal prison. Full restitution of $1.2 million plus damages totaling another $1.8 million. They'd have to sell their house, liquidate their retirement accounts, spend the rest of their lives paying back what they stole. I sat in the courtroom when they were sentenced. My mother cried. My father stared straight ahead. Neither of them looked at me. The judge did, though. Judge Bernard Hoffman. He'd known my grandfather. Worked in the same courthouse for 15 years. Lawrence Reed was a brilliant jurist, he said before sentencing. He understood family law better than anyone I've known, and he understood that the worst abuse often happens in homes that look normal from the outside, in families that smile for photos and hide exploitation behind closed doors. He looked directly at my parents. You stole 17 years of your daughter's life. Made her believe she was worthless while using her labor to build your other daughter's success. Then you stole her inheritance and gaslit her into thinking your grandfather had abandoned her. He paused. Lawrence Reed didn't abandon her. He documented everything and built a case that would give her justice even after his death. That's what real love looks like. Not what you did. What he did. 3 years in prison, full restitution, a permanent record. I walked out of the courthouse alone, took the T back to Commonwealth Avenue, let myself into my brownstone with keys that felt lighter now, less weighted with history, just keys. That night, I sat in my grandfather's study and read through his journals from beginning to end. All 156 pages, every entry documenting moments I'd lived but tried to forget. Jade at the kitchen table, Jade writing papers, Jade exhausted, Jade invisible. Except I'd never been invisible to him. He'd seen everything, and he'd made sure that someday everyone else would see it too. In the following weeks, Victoria helped me navigate the mountain of paperwork. She sat with me at the bank while I opened accounts in my own name for the first time. She recommended a therapist who specialized in family trauma. For the first time, I wasn't doing everything alone. One quiet evening, I stood on the brownstone's front steps watching the city lights. The weight I had carried for 17 years was finally lifting. I was no longer background. I was no longer the family servant. I was Jade Reed, granddaughter of Judge Lawrence Reed, rightful heir, and most importantly, someone who finally chose herself. I started college 3 weeks later, walked into my first class, Introduction to Constitutional Law, and sat in the back row. Opened my laptop. Took notes in my own words for the first time in 17 years. No one needed my help. No one demanded my labor. No one told me I owed them. I was just a student, learning, building, becoming whoever I was supposed to be before my family decided I was more valuable as invisible infrastructure. The professor talked about equal protection, due process, the idea that law exists to protect people who can't protect themselves. I thought about conservatorships filed without consent, forged signatures, recordings that proved exploitation, evidence that survived death. I thought about my grandfather in his final year, documenting everything, knowing he wouldn't be around to stop what was coming, but determined to give me weapons I could use later. After class, I walked back to the brownstone through Boston Spring. The city was warming up, trees budding, people sitting outside cafes drinking coffee and pretending winter hadn't just tried to kill them for 5 straight months. I made dinner in my kitchen. Nothing fancy. Pasta and vegetables. Food I cooked for myself because I wanted to eat, not because someone demanded I perform domestic labor. I ate at my grandfather's desk, read through case files Victoria had sent over, evidence and documentation and careful legal language that added up to something simple: truth. My phone buzzed. Text from Victoria. Peyton's bankruptcy file today. She'll lose everything. Judgment is roughly 3.1 million. She has about 42,000 in assets. This will follow her for decades. I stared at the message for a long time. Decades. The same amount of time she'd benefited from my stolen work. The same amount of time she'd spent building a life on foundations she knew were false. I didn't feel good about her destruction, but I didn't feel bad either. I felt clear. They'd controlled the narrative for 17 years, built a reality where I was background, burden, someone who should be grateful for scraps. They'd stolen my education, my inheritance, my identity, and then acted wounded when truth finally found witnesses. But truth doesn't disappear. It just waits. My grandfather understood that. He'd spent his final years building a case that would outlive him, making sure that when I finally stood in a room with my family, surrounded by evidence they couldn't deny, I'd understand. I was never the problem. I was exactly who I was supposed to be, and they were exactly who they'd always been. I finished dinner, washed my dishes, walked through my brownstone turning off lights, climbed the stairs to the bedroom I'd slowly furnished with things that felt like mine. Before bed, I opened the journal to my grandfather's final words one more time. Take it all back, Jade. Every single year. I was trying. One day at a time, one class at a time, one moment of truth at a time. The torn gray dress still hung in my closet. I'd keep it there. Not as a reminder of shame, as proof that narratives can change, that background can become foreground, that invisible can become seen. They'd positioned me 3 steps behind for 17 years. But I'd walked forward anyway, and I wasn't stopping.